Hello everyone. Welcome back to my 2024 reading wrap up, which is crazy because I watched so many of these last year and I remember watching them and thinking that would be so cool if I had my own booktube channel and I was doing that wrap up, but I wasn't super sure. I was just doing like tarot on this channel at that point. So my channel, I have not been posting for a consistent year, but it's almost a year in February. And I am just so happy to be here. And I'm so happy to have all of you guys. So thank you so much for your support. And if you're new here, my name is Summer. I review books. I post book vlogs. I talk so much about different e-readers and review them and compare them, all sorts of things like that. So if that sounds good to you, then make sure you subscribe to make sure you come back for more in 2025. So I am going to go through a few different things here. I am first going to go through my Goodreads wrap up. I am going to talk about all of that, and then I'm going to go by genre, my favorite books of 2024. My goodness. It was really difficult, and tell me in the comments below if it was difficult or easy for you, and list a few of your favorite books because I would love to see if we have similar ones or different ones, and maybe list them right now before you watch the rest of the video so that I don't influence you with any of mine. A lot of mine are physical copies because I like to buy kind of the trophy, as they call it, the trophy, if I liked the Kindle book, but I usually like to read books on Kindle first. So let's go over my Goodreads wrap up. I'm going to insert like a little screen recording of what I'm talking about as I go through that, and then we will talk about each genre and my favorites in that genre. I'm also going to do a most anticipated books of 2025, like ones that are already out, and then also new releases. So make sure you're subscribed for that. And I also need to figure out how I'm going to do the layouts on my reading journal, but I haven't gotten there quite yet. Okay, so let's go over my 2024 year in books according to Goodreads. And if you're not friends with me on Goodreads, I'll leave the link in the description so you can find me and we can be friends so you can see more up-to-date updates, because sometimes I get really behind on my vlogs. So it's fun to get to see what you guys are reading on Goodreads for me too, and fun for you guys to stay up to date with me, I think. So here's my wrap up, and I'm also thinking about in the new year trying Storygraph or Fable, or there's another one that I'm blanking on, but there's so many different book tracking apps and sites. So let me know what your favorite is because I might move over. I feel like Goodreads is like the classic one, and I know it's just kind of an inside joke at this point that they kind of refuse to update it, and I have a love-hate relationship with that. So let's take a look at my year in books. So I read 23,470 pages in 72 books, and I think that's pretty good. I know that some of you guys read way more than that, but I take my hat off to you. I have a really demanding 9 to 5, which often becomes like a 7:30 to 7:30 job sometimes. And I know that a lot of you do too, but I think you guys are better at managing that than I am so far. So I think that 72 books is fantastic. I think my original goal for the year was to have 40 books read. So this blows it out of the water. And I will say this is my best year that I've tracked, I think, ever. So that's great. My shortest book was 55 pages, which this one was so funny. If you go watch my video where I read this entire Amazon original stories, like the holiday stories vlog, this was so funny. This was about people who got stuck in traffic, and it was a romance, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. And then my longest book was Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow, which was 835 pages. That was a beast of a book. I have no idea how Sarah J. Maas writes these giant tomes, but that was my longest book. My average book length, I think these really kind of helped things along, was 325 pages. And my most shelved was The Alchemist, which this is one of my favorite books. You're going to see it later in the video, spoiler alert, but I read it every single year. So it's kind of always on my list because every time I read it, I feel like I find something new that I was like, wait, was that in there before? And then my least shelved was Chelsea Handler's new book, I'll Have What She's Having. I think it comes out in February, I want to say, but apparently 0 people shelved this one, which is kind of cool that I was one of the very first people to read that as an ARC from NetGalley, so that was awesome. I did really like it, and I'll have a better review that comes out when it comes out, so make sure you're subscribed. Okay, this is something that I get comments on all the time. I rate books very highly. I feel like a 5-star is not that rare from me. And the reason for that is because I pick books that I think I am really going to like on purpose. Like, I'm a very big mood reader. I don't really read books that I'm iffy about. Just to be so honest, I do so much research and I find out a ton about the books, almost to the point where I find out spoilers, because I just want to know if it's going to be good, like, for my preference. And so I feel like it is skewed. It is inflated, whatever you want to say. Let's just be honest here. It is a bit inflated because 5 stars are not that hard for me to give out. I wish there was a 6-star system, because here's the thing is I love to support authors, especially indie authors. And so I like to give 5 stars if I really loved it, because I really loved it. And I want to make sure that the world knows it and that it looks good on their Goodreads, it looks good on their Amazon, whatever. Because if I thought it was a good book, I'm going to give it 5 stars. Then for me, there is a place where books get 6 stars, which are kind of going to be the books in this video. 6 stars are like above and beyond, this will be leaving a mark on me forever kind of books. So that is why my rating system is the way that it is, because I feel like if I have a 6-star book, like that 6-star feeling, it's extremely special, and I give those out rarely. So 5 stars, not that hard to get for me. 4 stars is like, okay. 3 stars is like, this is meh for me. And then I kind of don't rate them. Like, I just don't put them on here. Like, I will delete them from my read history. I don't really like to leave DNF'd books. There are a couple if you search deeply, but I just don't find value in negative reviews most of the time. So that is why my ratings are the way they are. And that kind of explains what some of you guys have been asking me about, like, why do you rate things so highly? Because I kind of just like don't talk about them. If I don't like them, I just leave it alone, because usually it's just not for me. Doesn't mean it wasn't a good book, just meant it wasn't a good book for me. So that's that. Luna, I loved Luna so much. This is by Julianne Bigler, and this one has a perfect 5-star rating because everyone that read this loved it so much. So I'm so glad to see that for Luna. Okay, this is where things get weird. This wasn't my first review of the year, so I don't know why Goodreads is saying that, and this kind of irritated me because this was not my first review. So there's got to be something messed up with the timing and what this, maybe I didn't put in the dates read or something. I don't know. This was a good book, but I'm just kind of confused because this was not my first review. So I don't know what was up with that. All right, here are my books that I read. It kind of doesn't really go in order, although I wish it did. And maybe part of this is why, because I don't think I put in some of these ARC dates read just because they didn't sync to Goodreads. That's another thing. That's a whole other situation where when you're reading ARCs, you really have to put in the dates yourself instead of it syncing all by itself. But I think the very first book that I read this year was The Housemaid, and one of my friends suggested this one, and this kind of started why I started posting on this channel. So I will say, I feel like there are a couple reasons why I started this channel. And somebody asked if I would make a little video talking about booktube, or like how to start a booktube channel. And I can definitely talk about that, I think, when the year mark comes up. But part of what I'm going to talk about is how this all got kicked off. Truly what happened is I read Fourth Wing. Then I decided to get this Kindle and unbox it. Oh wait, you guys can't see it because I'm screen recording. Maybe you can see it on the side of the screen recording. Here, I'll put it over here. So I got this Kindle, the agave green paperweight, and I unboxed it. And that was really the start of the channel. And then I was like, maybe I should do a review 6 months later. And then maybe I should kind of see what happens in the third one. Worth the Risk was really good. This one was set in a town near my hometown, which was kind of cool. This is a companion to The Alchemist. Housemaid's Secret was good. Happily Never After was good. Hey Hun was really interesting. Loved Funny Story. Okay, we'll go a little faster here. You guys can just kind of pause to look at these if you want to look at them. Oh, here's that series that I read over the holidays. There are a few more arcs. And that led to the very last one that I finished just a couple of days ago, was The Paradise Problem. So that kind of wraps that up, and we'll see if I read any more throughout the year, but this one might be the last one that I finished because I'm kind of working on a couple at the same time. So, all right, that is my Goodreads wrap up. Let's go ahead and talk about my favorite books of the year and talk about each genre. So if you want to skip to a certain genre, you can look on the bottom and skip to a certain genre. So let's move this out of the way. Okay, I'm inserting these as honorable mentions because I did love Caraval. It really was like Phantasma, but a later version. Love that. And then these two, this is going to depend. Like, I love Alex Aster, and she's so nice. She's a really, really good writer. And I feel like I loved Lightlark and Nightbane and Skyshade, which I don't have pictured, but it's the third one. But it's really going to depend on what happens in the next one, like how much I love these ones. But I feel like Lightlark should definitely be on my at least honorable mentions because I loved Lightlark so much. This one's kind of like a game where there are these rulers of these different realms and they all have to come together to kind of like play these games every 100 years. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So I did love Lightlark as well. So here's my honorable mention pile. All right, we're going to start with my other category first because I couldn't really figure out which ones these fit in. I'll explain why. So my first favorite out of this was Luna. And Luna is like a little kind of parable, a little fable about this rabbit who loses her footprints. And it was really meaningful. You can see that I tabbed as I read. And it just, like, you have to figure out why she's losing her footprints. And it really made me reflect on my own life and my own journey. So I loved this one. The next one that kind of doesn't really fit because this was like a paranormal romance. I feel like this could fit in fantasy, but then also could fit in romance. So I put it just in the other category, was Bride. Now this one is kind of an inside joke on this channel because it took me so long to actually start reading it. And once I read it, it was one of my very favorite ones. There's an entire vlog that goes with Bride. I might link it below. I was snowed in. I couldn't leave my house. And so I read Bride and I absolutely loved it. And it kicked off my 24-hour reading challenge with some other books. But this one, it was a little controversial with some of the things that happened in this book. It really didn't bother me as someone who reads a lot of paranormal or fantasy books. I'm just like, whatever. I was raised on Twilight and none of this was weird. So this one is a romance between a vampire and a or a werewolf, however you want to say it. And this was like kind of Twilight-esque, and I loved it because I grew up on Twilight and I love it. So this was absolutely perfect. Okay, Phantasma, I absolutely loved. This one, I cannot wait for the sequel. This one was like, I had been craving something that reminded me of One Dark Window all year. And this kind of brought those gothic, paranormal, historical vibes, like almost Victorian, I guess. And I love this one so much. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but I feel like I was gripped by the very first pages. It reminded me of like Panic at the Disco in 2007 would start this opening, like the one like where they had a ton of flowers. I can't remember what it was, probably a really long and inappropriate title, but that, if you know, you know. That is my kind of assessment of this one. This one had trials. It was kind of like Dark Caraval, where she had to save her sister. There were these trials. She had to enter this game, and I absolutely love this one. By the way, if you loved any of these, if you've already commented, feel free to comment again. If you love any of these, please comment below and let me know what your opinions were on the books that I'm talking about, because I would love to chat about these with you in the comments. Let's move on to thriller. I just have a few in this section, so let's talk about these. Okay, so I loved the Housemaid series, which is number 1, The Housemaid, number 2, The Housemaid's Secret, and then number 3, The Housemaid is Watching. There was a 4th novella, which I haven't read yet, which goes in between 2 and 3. That is The Housemaid's Wedding, I believe. But the first Housemaid was I think I like the second one the very best. The second one I think was my favorite. So this entire series was really good. I feel like if you're ever in a reading slump, just pick up a Freida book and you will not be disappointed. And this one, I don't know, this one's so hard to not spoil because so much happens in the entire series that you aren't expecting, and I don't want to spoil anything for you. But basically, this housemaid has like a kind of a bad history and she can't get hired a ton of places. So she feels really lucky to get hired with the people that she gets hired with. And just like so many crazy things ensue from there. And then there's a second and a third and a little fourth novella. So if you just need like something that's going to hold your attention and keep you excited about reading and get you out of a slump, I would say read the Housemaid series in between books that are like really long or putting you into a slump, because they do not disappoint. And they're actually making a movie about this series starring Amanda Seyfried, I think, and Sydney Sweeney and Michelle Morone. I think that's how you say his name. And then Andrew something, that guy from the movie that I didn't see. If you know what that means, you know what that means. But Enzo, the guy who plays Enzo, like I am shook, because he was the guy that I pictured playing Enzo the entire time. Like I just heard his voice. It is crazy. And if you haven't read this, I think you have until December 2025 to read the series before the movies come out. So highly suggest that. The next thriller that I loved was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva Rose. I actually preferred this one over The Perfect Marriage. This one freaked me out, and I read it in like one day. I read the audiobook at like 2x speed, and because I was just like trying to get through it, because I wanted to know what happened. And there was a crazy twist at the end. Then there was another crazy twist at the end. And I felt like every chapter I thought something was going to happen, and there were a lot of things where I thought something was going on, but it wasn't, or it was, and I didn't think about it. So this one was just filled with twists and turns. This one was about a girl who goes to a Wyoming Airbnb, and things just go wrong from there. There's no cell service. It was really creepy. I feel like a lot of people didn't love this one because I feel like they were expecting it to be something else, but I felt like I got it. I loved it. This is what I want more of. I didn't love The Perfect Marriage, but I will read The Perfect Divorce because I want to see what happens. Jeneva Rose just has an amazing writing style. It reminds me of how I feel about Freida, and I feel like Jeneva is right up there with her. So I love Jeneva Rose's books so much, and I need to read a couple of the ones that I haven't read so far, but I'm saving them until I get into a really, really big slump. And the last book that I had on my thriller favorites was Never Lie by none other than Freida McFadden herself. This one was my favorite one that I read. This one was like a couple is snowed into this house that they're looking at buying. And then there's, of course, another storyline that you get to uncover things at the exact same time, and things sort of unravel. This one was the creepiest one that I read from her, other than The Housemaid. I feel like I read The Teacher and I read The Coworker, and I really liked those ones. And The Teacher almost made it on this one, but it didn't. And The Boyfriend was good too, but these are my all-time favorites. Never Lie was just wild. This one was crazy. So, and if you know what happens, this cover has a whole new meaning. So these ones are really good on KU too. If you're looking at getting Kindle Unlimited, all of Freida's books are on Kindle Unlimited. And actually, I'll try and tell you the other books that I talk about that are on KU in case you're looking at perhaps downloading them. I happen to know that right now Phantasma is on KU. Okay, let's do romance next. The one that I just finished, The Paradise Problem, this one was like a marriage of convenience, forced proximity. They get married just for reasons that were going to help them financially. And then come to find out there's a contract. They have to go to an island with his family. And this one just felt like I was reading a movie. This one was so good. I know it's not summertime, and I know it's like, the dead of winter basically, but if you just need like a summary book that is like a feel good, but also, they like work through problems, things like that, this one was so good. So incredibly good. I highly recommend. 6-star book all the way. Next was Funny Story. I loved this one as well. This one I read over the summer, and this one I feel like I need to get the physical copy of because it just felt like it changed my brain chemistry in the best way. I'm not usually obsessed with Emily Henry books, but this one was different. This one, I just fell so in love with their story, and Miles, such a good book boyfriend. Absolutely loved it. One that I almost put on this list was Happily Never After, which I read around the same time. I'm not talking right. Around the same time as Funny Story, and that one was like an honorable mention in this category. So that one was on there as well. And then my last one for the romance category was The 7-Year Slip. This one, again, 6-star. Like, this one changed my brain chemistry. It's about this magical apartment that was given to the main character by her aunt, and there is a 7-year time slip where she can fall into it, but she can't control it. It's kind of just like at the whim of the apartment itself and the magic. And this one was like magical realism. And I felt like this is a reread for sure, that I'm going to reread this one. There was a lot of like cooking references because one of them is a chef. So if you love books that have to do with food, this one I also felt like I was reading a movie. Like if you're into those rom-coms that they kind of like don't do very well anymore, I feel like this one gave me like the golden era of rom-com vibes. Oh, okay. I forgot to mention this one in the other category, but it kind of has to do with fantasy. So I will introduce the fantasy category with this one. Like I said in my wrap up, I read The Alchemist every single year because I'm obsessed with it, and I find something new in it every single time. It's about this young boy who has to go on a journey because he has a dream and he feels like he needs to see the place in his dream and see it carried out and then see where it takes him. And it takes him on all these things. He loses like everything he's ever had and then gains so much more. I hope that doesn't spoil anything, but just the lessons, like I feel like this book is magic, and I feel like every time I read it, I find something different. Next one that I'm really looking forward to the sequel in 2025 is Heartless Hunter, also known as The Crimson Moth. This one has, I think it's called Rebel Witch, comes out in February. And this one was in my cabin reading vlog. I'll link that one below because it's one of my favorite vlogs ever. But this one was just so good. Like it was fantasy, kind of felt like Bridgerton, but with magic. Kind of almost gave like a Pirates of the Caribbean feel at times. And this one is about a witch hunter and a witch. And of course, you just know that they're going to have great chemistry and fall in love with each other. And there's also a bit of a love triangle. Like if you like Vampire Diaries, it's a bit like that. I don't know if it's going to continue or not, but that's kind of what we got there. So I absolutely love this book and I cannot wait for the sequel. I'm trying so hard to get the sequel on NetGalley, but I haven't seen it pop up yet as available to request. So I keep refreshing every single day. So if anyone who's watching this has the ability to get this book to me early, please let me know because I would absolutely pass out. And actually, while we're talking about books that I would do anything to get the sequel of early, Quicksilver is another one where this one it took me a while to read, and I have the original cover, not the traditionally published cover that has Kingfisher on it. This is what the cover of most of them look like, but I fought to get this cover because I was obsessed with it and I wanted this cover. It reminds me of like almost an 80s fantasy kind of situation. And this one was really interesting. Like the beginning, I was like, I don't know. Then something happened where I was obsessed and you could not get me out of this world. I was just obsessed. Then it kind of took a little while because the world building was just so intense. Like this is unlike any book that I have ever read in my entire life. Then the end, 7 stars. Smash it out of the park. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I want to cry. I just like that ending, insane. Like one of the most insane book endings. I was glued to my Kindle. I started tabbing and then I just like wanted to read it so fast. So of course I had to get it on my Colorsoft, and I was like reading so fast, just like scrolling through, like trying to understand this ending, and it was insane. I read the ending twice, like where this last piece began. I read it and then I read it again because I just needed to like feel that I would give anything to read this book again for the first time. It was that good. So highly recommend Quicksilver. And this one I think has a sequel coming out at some point in 2025. And Callie, Hart, if you see this, I would do anything to read that sequel when you have it. So there's that. 7 stars. So good. Okay, another book. Lauren Roberts, if you see this, like if I could get Phantasma's sequel, Enchantra, if I could get Fearless from Lauren Roberts, whatever the Quicksilver sequel is, and then Heartless Hunter's sequel, Rebel Witch, like I would just, you could never top that. That would be insane. So I did love this series. A lot of people were feeling like this one left something to be desired. I felt like I didn't look at it as a typical book. I was looking at it, I think, as Lauren intended it. And I think she just wanted to have fun with these books. So a lot of people were really hard on Powerless and Reckless, but I love them both. And I can't wait for the third one. So these were just like fun. Like, I don't even know how to describe them. The first one kind of had like a Hunger Games-ish vibe. This one almost felt like Throne of Glass, but different. I don't know. I just love them. Next, of course, we had House of Flame and Shadow. I moved my coffee so it doesn't fall over. And this one I told myself I didn't need the hardcover. Over and over, I said to myself, you just need the Kindle and the audio version. You don't need the hardcover. Then, cue me on release day running to Target because I wanted the Rune and Lydia bonus chapters, which I did get, thank goodness. But this is a chunk of a book. Again, this was the longest book that I read this year, and I needed the audio to help me get through this. And there's no way that I would be able to hold this and read this comfortably. So thank goodness I had it on my Kindle. So I have this one in so many different formats, but this one was probably my favorite book in the Crescent City series. Crescent City is kind of hard to get into. If you're not a fantasy person, then I would go with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, to just kind of get into it. But Crescent City, that first book, and shout out Shannon. I sent Shannon the first book in the Crescent City series. That for our little book exchange. And what I'm just going to say to everyone and to Shannon, the first 50 pages or first 5 chapters, I think it is, of the first Crescent City book are insane. It took me years, I think, to get through those and understand. Once you get through it, then it's oh, okay, I get it. But it's just you have to have that for the world building because this world is insane. And once you get it, you get it. But it took me, I read a lot of fantasy and romantasy, and I haven't even talked about my actual favorite fantasy, not romantasy, on this channel, which I'm going to. But this is just so good. Rune and Lydia are my favorite. I love Hunt. Bryce isn't my favorite, the main character, but the side characters in this and their stories, insane. Obsessed. And the way that this connects to Sarah's other books, obsessed. Okay, obligatory, but I loved it. Did I love it as much as I love Fourth Wing? Fourth Wing is 7 stars for me as well. Fourth Wing changed my brain chemistry, made me buy a new Kindle, and probably is the reason I have this channel. If we didn't have Fourth Wing, this channel might not exist. So Rebecca Yarros, if you ever see this, then thank you. Because I don't know what happened with Fourth Wing, but it truly changed my brain chemistry. I hunted for this book. This is the sprayed edge edition. This one was the one that was, there were a couple different printing sites for this one, and there were a few misprints and things like that. This one I actually happened to get early. There is a story behind it. It was accidental, but I had this maybe 3 or 4 days before everyone else did, before it came out. And I was reading this so fast. When I tell you that my fingers were stained black from holding onto these pages, it was kind of funny. But this one was printed in Italy, so it's one of the ones that has a couple of misprints in there. And I actually have the receipt from where I got it in the front cover, and I won't open it because I don't want to spoil where it came from because I don't want anyone to get in trouble. But I did have this one early, and I'm trying to manifest somehow getting Onyx Storm early. I don't know how it will happen, but somehow I feel like I'm going to get that one early. I'm just putting it out there in the universe for 2025 because it's coming out within a month. But anyway, Iron Flame is a continuation of Fourth Wing, and this one expands the world so much more. Fourth Wing, it's really they're at school learning about dragons and everything, and the world building is kind of happening along with the characters. We're learning the world with them. This one expands the universe so much, and there was a bit of a miscommunication trope in this one, but I think there's a reason. We have 3 more books in this series, so we'll see what happens with this one. But I did love this one, and I can't wait for Onyx Storm. Okay, I'm losing light, but somehow I was just editing this and I was talking about these 2 books and the audio just got completely corrupted. So I don't know what happened there, but 2 of my other fantasy books that I need to insert in here are The Serpent and the Wolf and A Tribute of Fire. These kind of reminded me of each other, so that's why I'm okay talking about them at the same time. The Serpent and the Wolf reminded me a lot of Game of Thrones, but less intense, and kind of if you had the story of Daenerys and Khal Drogo just by itself. The magic system was really unique, and I loved the way this was written. There was so much character development in this one. And then A Tribute of Fire is kind of it was a bit like Greek mythology mixed with Reylo, which is the ship name for Rey and Kylo Ren in the Star Wars sequels. This one was kind of there was a big trial and they had to get through that.
there was a lot of character growth, and I liked the secondary characters a lot in both these books, which is why I kind of like having them together, because they're both kind of this like romantasy, but I liked the side characters just as much, if not more, than I liked the main characters. And then there was a twist in both of them too. So if you like one of them, you're gonna like the other one, and vice versa. So add these to your fantasy list, because they both have sequels coming out next year, I think, as well.
All right, for the last book, is anyone surprised? Is anyone surprised? This book, 8-star, 9-star, 10-star. Like, bury me with this book. This book was so good. It is so good. This one is a gothic fantasy. I want to say romantasy, but really just the magic system is about this girl named Elspeth, and she lives in this gothic-ish world where they have these magic cards. They're called Providence cards, and each card can do something. If you tap it 3 times, it kind of activates the card for the user, but there is a price to pay for the magic use, and you get to see like the positive and then also the price. And there is a twist where she is kind of connected to one of these cards and the creator of these cards. This is a duology with 2 Twisted Crowns, which I should also be holding, but it's over there on my bookshelf, so just know I love both of these, but this first book specifically just changed me. So Steph, thank you so much. Shout out Steph for suggesting that I read this one, because this was crazy. I don't think I've had one book in my life, which I will talk about when I get to my God tier video, because I am going to film that video at some point. I've just been thinking about it, so make sure you're subscribed to see that one. My God tier books will have this one other one that I'm talking about that reminds me of this one. But when I tell you I'm going to have to reread this one in 2025, this might become a yearly reread, just because Rachel Gillig's writing is just so magical, and it's so lyrical, it's beautiful, it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. But again, changed my brain chemistry in such a good way. She has another book coming out. So this is a completed duology. If you're looking for completed duologies, this one is on Kindle Unlimited as well. So this is my ultimate favorite top book of 2024. And I feel like it's going to become just one of my favorite books ever, because it already has. This book, just chef's kiss. The romance, the story, like it wasn't too heavily centered on romance, but it was like just enough. It was just, the magic system was so unique. I felt like I lived in this world. But anyway, what I was going to say is that Rachel Gillig is coming out with a new book called The Night and the Moth, I think. And that's another one that I would just do anything to get early. So anyway, love this book. So thank you guys so much for watching. I think that was all of them. I don't think I forgot any, but if you guys think of any that you've seen on my channel that you're like, wait, what about this book? Please tell me in the comments. And now I have to go put all these back on my bookshelf, but it's okay. It's a good problem to have. So I am also going to do a most anticipated books of 2025. This video is just getting way too long, I can tell. So I will make that its own separate video. So make sure you're subscribed. Please give this video a like, because it just helps me to expand my channel and meet more book lovers. And please comment below your favorite book or what you thought about any of these books. And I will see you in the next video. And thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.